Welcome to this DW Business Special, where we'll be looking at Europe's cost of living crisis. As energy prices jump to levels not seen for decades, we'll ask how the continent's most vulnerable people are coping and what needs to be done now to prevent extreme hardship this winter. Now, it is worth pointing out Europe has been battling inflation since before the war in Ukraine. That was due to consumers beginning to spend again as pandemic restrictions were lifted. Prices were also rising because of supply chain issues in China, where key areas are still in lockdown. But the war in Ukraine and the resulting pressure on gas supplies has pushed an uncomfortable situation into a full-blown crisis.
The time has come for the EU to properly address its money laundering issues, at least in theory. Following a series of scandals, including Danish Danske Bank's €200 billion money laundering embarrassment, the European Commission wants to create a new dirty money supervisory agency, the Anti-Money Laundering Authority. It's part of a package of legislative proposals aimed at strengthening rules around money laundering and to counter terrorist financing.
This means Apple and Google and all those companies that we've been talking about regulating for the last few years, they're finally going to get regulated. All the dream, the wish list all these regulators have had, this gives the EU the bandwidth and the ability to make that happen. That means letting you install software on your iPhone from outside the Apple App Store, meaning Apple misses revenue on that. That means Amazon can't prioritize its own products in search. It has to be fair and balanced and equal how it shows stuff like that.
Who's the arbiter of that?
Who's the arbiter? The EU gets to do that. The EU Commission gets to decide who does that, and they get to determine these people as gatekeepers on really broad grounds. All you need is a 75 billion euro market cap, and we know the companies that we keep talking about.
To fall under this legislation.
To fall under this legislation, and a certain amount of users that they all, like 45 million users across the EU, which Facebook does that in a blink of an eye, right?
The EU Parliament has agreed on new anti-money laundering rules to regulate cryptocurrencies. The rules include a tracking of purchases of virtual currencies such as Bitcoin above €1 in value from online exchanges.
The European Union has some of the most robust consumer protection rules in the world. Parliament has reached an initial agreement with EU governments to give European citizens from across all member states the possibility to sue companies collectively.
D'ici 2 ans, 2 ans et demi, les consommateurs de l'ensemble de l'Union européenne devraient être considérablement mieux protégés. Ça prend du temps parce que ça engage 500 millions de consommateurs.
Once the new legislation comes into force, consumer rights groups will be able to take legal action on behalf of domestic and cross-border victims of the same rights infringement.